مستمرين مع مؤتمر حاسوب في دورته الثالثة تحت عنوان The New Normal أو الروتين الجديد، الواقع الجديد اللي اجتاح عالمنا في 2020. ومن بداية هذا النهار كنا في أكثر من محاورة ما بين سلطات محلية، أهل اختصاص، مستثمرين، موظفين في كبار الشركات وأيضا رياديين، اللي حاولنا نصب الخبرات ونجمعها حتى يكون كل جمهورنا المتابع الليلي يعني أيضا مستمتع وأيضا مستفيد وعم بوسع آفاقه ومداركه، وعم نحاول نكسبه لو بعض الأدوات حتى يستمر في مشروعه الريادي. مستمرين إذن إلى حوار رح نحاول التركيز خلاله حول أبرز آثار كوفيد-19 على مركز الابتكار العالمي. واحد من الأسئلة الرئيسية في هالمرحلة هو كيف رح تأثر التداعيات الاقتصادية لكورونا على الشركات الناشئة وعلى رأس المال الاستثماري وعلى المصادر التقليدية الأخرى لتمويل الابتكارات. والحكومات بهالأيام عم توضع حزم إغاثة في حالات الطوارئ من أجل تخفيف أثر الإغلاق وحتى تواجه الركود اللي عم بيلوح في الأفق. ولكن مؤشر الابتكار العالمي لعام 2020 أسدى مشورة مفادها أن جولات الدعم التالية يجب أن تبدأ بالأولويات ثم توسع نطاق الدعم المقدم للابتكار، لا سيما بالنسبة للشركات الصغيرة والشركات الناشئة اللي بتواجه بالعادة عقبات في الوصول إلى حزم الإغاثة خاصة في هالمرحلة. المشهد العام يشترط بلا شك خلق أفكار وسبل جديدة ومبتكرة من أجل الاستمرار، لكن لنسمع أكثر ونفهم أكثر حول هالموضوع رح نكون مع ضيوفنا في هذا الحوار اللي رح يديره الرئيس السابق لمركز الابتكار العالمي السيد أرمين ريناردز.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Unfortunately, my Arabic is still very, very bad, non-existent, so I have to speak English with you tonight. I'm very thrilled to moderate this panel. And before we get right into the topic, I'd like to give over to my colleague Julius and a few words about Julius, because he is one of the lead innovators among the directors in Friedrich Naumann Foundation. He has spent now 6 years in Moscow, where he did incredible work with the office there. And now he's just starting in Jerusalem. So Julius, please.
It was even 8 years in Moscow.
It
went really quickly. And assalamu alaikum to everyone. It is a really great pleasure for the Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Freedom Jerusalem to be part of your annual Hasoub conference and also at this special panel on the crisis we live in. It is already the second year that the Friedrich Naumann Foundation is partnering with Hasoub. I have also the pleasure to be already second time in one of your events, but I hope that this cooperation continues further because the Friedrich Naumann Foundation wants to be the creative innovation platform to promote individual freedom, dignity, and responsibility. And as Hasoub, we believe in the power of entrepreneurship, the power of education, and the power of innovation. And a main effort in our work in Israel is devoted to improving the livelihood and economic integration of the Palestinian community and to foster prosperity. And as Hasoub, we see education as key to achieve this for equal opportunities for all. And we love to work with you at Hasoub and with everyone in this great community. And I think that's it for me now, because now you should talk about how we overcome this crisis with COVID we live in. And I hope that we see each other further and get to know in person next time.
Thanks so much, Julius. So COVID and its impact on global innovation, that's our topic here tonight. And we have some very special guests assembled here so they can share how they dealt with the crisis in their field of global innovation. So everyone here tonight is working in the field of global innovation with slightly different aspects. And at first, I will, before we get into the questions, I will give you a short introduction of each panelist here. So we have here tonight Leena Zoabi Mukh. She's head of the international cooperation at Skolkovo Foundation in Russia. So, and that is one of the leading, if not prime address of boosting startups and innovation there. She has a background in law and management, and we're very happy to have her here tonight. Then so usually like in the normal panel, everybody would applaud. Now I think we just have to imagine that. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, Armin.
The next panelist that I would like to introduce is Jumana Muwafi, and she's a senior vice president of engineering at Synopsys in Silicon Valley. She's an expert of the industry and also in design. Knows a lot about through Berkeley and IBM in New York. And by her study background, she's a computer engineer with a master's from Syracuse University and American University in Beirut. So welcome and thanks for being here. Dona Hutch. So Dona Hutch is a UK Israel Tech Hub manager, working very closely on Israel, UK and tech and innovation in this nexus. She has a background in business and economics and tech. Welcome, Dona. Very looking forward to your input here. So we also have here tonight another colleague of mine, who is Marti. She is my successor as director of the Global Innovation Hub and has background in Chinese studies. Was our innovation desk officers for quite some time here in Friedrich Naumann Foundation. And now she's currently building up the new Global Innovation Hub in Taipei, in Taiwan. And we will learn more about that. So we were supposed to have one more panelist that I do not see here. So I think we just get then right into it. Maybe Omar can join us later. So regarding what we want to talk about, we want to tap your knowledge. So please, I would like to start with Leena. Can you give us a brief input, share your knowledge on how did you cope with COVID-19, with the COVID crisis in your work? And what changed it for you and how did you cope? Leena, please.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much, Armin, for the generous introduction. Dear panelists, dear audience, it's such a pleasure to join this amazing panel and panelists, and of course, the annual conference of Hasoub. I'm lucky to be part of the audit committee of Hasoub, so wish you more annual conferences to come. To start with your question, Armin, I would let me first give a short description about the Skullcore Foundation, because just to start from the basis, and then I will let you know what we did to support our ecosystem and startups during this pandemic crisis. So the Skolkovo Foundation is the managing entity of this Skolkovo Innovation Center. It's the Russian organization founded in 2010 by the Russian government with a focus, aim, and objective of fostering the development of breakthrough technologies and fostering the research and innovation ecosystem, and creating such an ecosystem which is favorable for entrepreneurs and innovators. To date, we have more than 2,700 startups in our portfolio. They are residents of the Skolkovo Foundation and eligible for all the benefits, including tax benefits and grants, which is up to $4 million we provide. We have more than 130 industrial partners, both national and international, of big corporates like Panasonic, Schneider Electric, IBM, Siemens, Microsoft, et cetera. Like all the big names, we have 49 R&D centers created by these international partners. The biggest Boeing R&D center outside the US is located in the Skolkovo Innovation City. We have our graduate university as well. We have our investment pool that includes as well Skolkovo Ventures with a capital of $300 million. We have our business angels, 200 in number so far, and we have our investment funds that support our startups. For me, if back to your question on myself, I work for the International Cooperation Department of the Skullcore Foundation, which is in charge of creating business opportunities with international partners, including governments, government entities, investment entities, and corporations. I'm leading cooperation with the MEA region and Italy Italy only because I have been living in Italy for 2 years. This is the only reason to have it within the portfolio region. In terms of how we have been facing COVID and supporting our companies through the rough period, I would say that quarantine has driven localization over globalization, or more precisely, a change in the globalization efforts, and I'll explain how. Like quarantine has imposed digitalization, which previously was considered a complementary. Now, remote education, remote work, telemedicine, and global events that go virtual are a reality. And a necessity as well. Digital has become the answer for all the adverse effects of COVID-19. For the foundation, we have come with very specific. We didn't change why we do things, but how we do things as a result of COVID. So from day one, we have gathered a list of solutions developed by Skolkovo resident companies in healthcare, edtech, remote work, and operations. We offered them to the Russian government to help cope with the adverse effects of pandemic. From our work, despite the problems associated with COVID-19 from the point of view of international cooperation, it turned out that the pandemic brings people closer together. Us are a proof of that. We have came up with a great initiative, which is the online business missions. We have 14 to date business missions to 13 countries. We have one left till the end of this year. We have as well our flagship events, the Startup Village and Open Innovations that went virtual. In a virtual mode, gathering more than 150,000 participants, unique participants per each. Previously, we had 20,000 participants per event. So it's just a big success because it makes people just easier to join and to be tuned during these events. The fourth approach was, and we successfully launched a virtual soft landing program, a program for foreign startups willing to touch base in the Russian market. We have more than 140 foreign startups from 35 countries of the world participating in our events. So quarantine is forcing companies to use technology to reimagine every facet of their operations.
Wow, that is very, very impressive.
It just,
so I would like to,
yeah.
We have very short time, so that's why I would like to move to the next one, but we'll come back to you, in the next round. So Jumana, please, could you add your experience? How did you guys go?
Yeah, thank you, Armin. First of all, it's a pleasure and an honor to be on this panel with you all. On our experience, I think Synopsys is a global company. So we were already used to working globally with teams across 3 continents. So the round-the-clock work was part of our lives. What happened though with the crisis is it was kind of a unifying crisis that brought everybody in the same area. Locally, I would say in Silicon Valley, because a commute of 1 to 1.5 hours is very typical each way for everybody that's commuting to work. So we were spending a lot of time just stuck in traffic and spending time there. And all of a sudden we were all in the homes, cutting down on that commute time. So the first experience was feeling like, we're much more productive now. We could use that time and be effective at doing the work. And it was with all engineering type of people, a challenge is something that's interesting to go about. How can we make this work? How can we be effective? How can we be even more productive? And it was a challenge to make it work, and everybody jumped on it and really made that happen. Because it was also a differentiating factor between companies, competing companies. How best can you cope with a crisis like this and still service your customers and service the business and be able to be effective at doing that? The technology, of course, allowed us to do that with access to technology. The challenging part was, how do you make that technology, how do you scale it in a home where maybe both partners are actually working, their kids are on Zoom calls doing their education. And so that became kind of the next challenge that we had to overcome in making sure that the network connections, the monitors, the setups, and things like that were sufficient to support a whole family, basically working from home. So those were, the new challenges that we had to overcome.
Yeah, I experienced some of those that you mentioned myself. So I guess a lot of us did. I would like to jump to Dona right now. Do you have something to add that is specific to your situation? How did you cope?
Definitely. So I work for a UK government team. I help UK corporates tap into innovation by working with startups, with cutting edge startups. So I can say my work both from the corporate side has changed and also from the startup angle changed. So for startups, for example, I work with, now it's harder than ever. In the UK and globally, startups has been basically struggling this year from a rapid fall in demand in certain industries to a drop-off of VC money. I can say from the UK angle alone, we've seen around 32,000% fall in equity investment compared to last year. Last year in 2019, we had a record year. Everybody was very positive about the last year and about where the tech ecosystem is going. We had in terms of from 2020, we did have investment, not in the same quantity as last year or volume of last year, but we've seen from the startup that I've been working with around 15 rounds of investment of 80 million pounds each. This is still, good numbers. It's a great vote of confidence that the UK market is attractive for investors. In response for this, the UK government that I work for announced a £500 million future fund, which aims to match investment from the private sector into startups. This has been working very well. But as everybody on the panel said, every challenge has also an opportunity. And I think COVID in many respects has been an accelerator for many industries that I cover. For example, the automotive industry that has crashed by 90% compared to last year in the UK. Yeah. We've seen the other end of that, a rise in vehicle. I believe the Tesla model has been the best-selling car in the UK, and all the innovation around that. So from the automotive side of things and the quantum computing side of things, there's been a rise and a need, and I've seen more, and I've been working more and more on these projects. Online shopping, it was also mentioned in the last panel. We've seen a rise in the UK of 130%. Retailers now are looking more and more than ever to collaborate with startups in terms of understanding their customers better and reaching their customers better by using data and innovation. So I think there's been a change, but there's been a growth in a lot of areas as well.
Thanks. It's interesting to see that this is going across sectors. So with our last panelist, I also would like to start our final round. So Anna, if you could not just tell us how did you cope, and but also directly in the second and final round of this panel, I would like to ask you, what is your prediction for the future in a way, like what will stay there? One sentence on what you think will stay after COVID, after this crisis in our field or in your respective field, and one sentence on what is your secret weapon to deal with everything that will come in 2021. That would be interesting. So please, we're running out of time. So please, we have to be a bit quick. I'm getting a lot of text that we have to speed it up. Anna, please.
Excellent. Yeah, well, I always love the questions when I'm asked to gaze into the crystal ball. But let's see. So how did COVID change everything for me? Actually, according to my plans, I was supposed to sit in Hong Kong right now, and I was supposed to have arrived there at the beginning of November, but this is clearly Berlin and Berlin internet, and that hasn't happened. And the main reason for that was not really COVID, but it was the political situation that changed in Hong Kong that led our foundation to close our office in Hong Kong and to look for a different place to relocate. And I do think that COVID actually did have an influence in the way that things have developed. Our previous office was located in Hong Kong, and China has really cracked the whip and cracked down on many freedoms there. And I do believe that actually COVID and basically the fact that the whole world was distracted with their own problems with this situation has had a helping hand, if we want to call it like that. So this has had a very direct impact, and also the fact that we have to close an office and reopen one. Now we're going to go to Taiwan. It's actually, regarding COVID, it's the island of the lucky ones. They haven't had a COVID case in over, I think, 200 days. And that is not the reason why we're going to Taiwan, but it's more of the ecosystem that we're going to find there. So many interesting things and partners, possibilities that we're looking to use and employ there. So that's the reason for that. What did I take away from this, from the whole COVID thing? I think it's two things. First of all, that digital formats can bring people so much more closer together, and suddenly you think about not just who is around the corner or who is even in your city, but you suddenly, because you're so used to the digital formats, you think of people to include everywhere around the world, and I think this is great. But it also has shown me very much the importance of being able to meet physical and what that means, because it's a whole other way of interacting. So it's the two things. One thing that is going to stay with me, I see Armin nodding his head.
Coming closer.
We're talking about COVID. I think the washing your hands all the time is definitely something that is going to stay with everybody. It's not very innovative, but I think it's going to stick.
That is definitely true. Then over to Dona. One sentence. What is your secret weapon? What is going to stay?
I think focusing on collaboration. We need to remember that there are companies that are successful now, and I think it's very important to keep in mind that there are some businesses that are really thriving right now. Not everyone is struggling during these times, and for us, it's very important to create these partnerships with those businesses. If your mission aligns with theirs, and try to align your mission as well with as many possible successful organizations, and use the downtime that you have now to pivot and rebrand and work on your website and content. It's very important that you keep in mind that this is a time that will never come back, and I think it's important to look back at this time and remember that we used it very well. And
thanks.
That's it.
Thanks. That's definitely good advice. Then over to the other side of the world, to Jumana. Like, what are your thoughts on this? What's the secret weapon for the future?
Yeah, I think I think in the tech industry, I think we're well positioned to be resilient to a crisis like this. That we've shown that with the technology we're able to make it work. I think aside from being productive and successful in a environment like this, it has shown that also our physical workspace is going to change. So I don't think that there's going to be as much of a need to have the commercial workplace with the large size companies to exist. I think the physical workspace is going to be essential for building relationships. There's no substitute for face-to-face interactions to build relationships, trust, to foster innovation and creativity and collaboration between teams. But it's no longer necessary to have it be a full-time place to be able to do your work. So I think we will, in 2021, we will be moving more into a hybrid model of physical workspace that we go to collaborate and meet with people. But I think there will be more and more that you can do from home, especially with the infrastructure that's getting built up to support that, with high performance computing, with the data centers and things like that absolutely support us to be able to do that.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that's very good advice for many innovators out there to keep in mind. And I was granted another 15 seconds. Leena, please, if you could.
So to make it short,
sum it up very quick.
I agree with all my colleague panelist has said, but I would say that there is one lesson that have been learned out of this crisis, which is the importance of responsiveness, which differentiates actually the winner from the runner-ups. To win the race, you should be alert, responsive, and flexible. Those who would adjust their business models to meet with the crisis and to meet with the adverse crisis effects, it's the answer for any problem that they could face in the future. Collaboration, inclusiveness, cooperation are still the need. Social impact innovation is more than needed. Collaborative action of all players and stakeholders of the innovation ecosystem, I think, is the theme and the subject for negotiations and to be on the agenda for future collaboration and future discussions. So I believe that staying like we always say, that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And this is what we would face. We had it in the past and we'd have it for sure in the future.
Thank you, Leena. And thanks very much to all of you. I think these are also encouraging words in times of crisis to many innovators out there. And Hasoub conference is very much not just about giving insights here, but also about connecting, learning from each other beyond that and building these networks. So I think we will stay in touch and the audience can reach out to each other and to any one of us. So thank you very much for being here with me today. And have a good night and a good rest of the conference. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. See you. Bye-bye.